The cemetery's secret. The cemetery seemed quiet and peaceful in the pitch-black darkness of the night. The pale light of the moon cast eerie shadows over the old tombstones. Young journalist Sarah had come to this desolate place alone. She was here to investigate the alleged paranormal activities that were said to occur in the cemetery. The elderly villagers claimed that at midnight some things moved, shadows came to life, and whispers could be heard. Sarah, with her flashlight and camera in hand, ventured deeper into the cemetery. With each step, dry leaves crunch underfoot, and a strange whistling sound emanated from the wind blowing between the gravestones. She paused for a moment and carefully looked around. Her heart was racing, and her breathing quickened. Just then, she heard a rustling sound in the distance. She immediately pointed her camera in that direction and slowly advanced. After a while, she came to an old, worn tombstone. The inscriptions on it were nearly unreadable, but what caught her attention was the strange light coming from behind the tombstone. Driven by curiosity, Sarah walked around the tombstone. She found the entrance to a small tunnel. The tunnel led down beneath the cemetery. Feeling the cold air and whispers coming from the tunnel, Sarah entered. At the end of the tunnel, she found herself in a large room. In the center of the room stood an old sarcophagus, its lid partially open. As she approached, she heard a chilling sound coming from inside the sarcophagus. It was as if someone was calling out to her from within. With trembling hands, she shone her flashlight into the sarcophagus. It was empty, but suddenly shadows began to move on the walls of the room. The shadows circled around the sarcophagus, enclosing Sarah. Out of nowhere, a tall, white-dressed female figure emerged from the shadows. The woman's eyes were empty and cold, her face expressionless. As she advanced towards Sarah, a deep scream echoed from the other end of the cemetery. Panic-stricken, Sarah retreated and tried to run back through the tunnel. But when she reached the entrance, she found it blocked. Desperately, she pounded on the walls and screamed, but to no avail. The shadows continued to follow her inside the tunnel. Exhausted, she finally collapsed to the ground and began to pray with her last hope. At that moment, a violent storm broke out outside the cemetery. Amidst the thunder, the cemetery gates swung open, and a beam of light illuminated the tunnel. Summoning all her strength, Sarah ran towards the light and threw herself outside the cemetery. Taking a deep breath, she looked back to see the cemetery gates closing again. Sarah returned to the village, unable to forget the terrifying experience she had endured. However, no one believed her story. The secret of the cemetery was once again lost among the shadows. But Sarah knew that something awoke in that cemetery at night, and she swore never to return.